Jason, a janitor at a prestigious office building, had spent most of his days sweeping floors and mopping hallways, blending into the background. But today, everything changed. He had just finished cleaning the lobby when a woman walked in, a vision of beauty and power, dressed in a tailored suit, her heels clicking across the polished floor with purpose. She looked like someone important, but Jason couldn't have guessed just how much her presence would affect him. As she rushed across the lobby, one of her heels broke. She stumbled, but before she could hit the ground, Jason was there, his strong arms catching her. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low. Her green eyes locked onto his with gratitude and surprise. "Thank you," she said, her voice rich with a mix of warmth and authority. "I'm just a janitor," Jason muttered, feeling awkward as he helped her steady herself. She smiled, a small but genuine gesture that made Jason's heart race. "You're more than that," she replied, her gaze lingering just a little too long before she adjusted her heel and walked away. Jason watched her disappear, an unexpected spark igniting in his chest. The days that followed were routine for Jason, except for the lingering thoughts of her. He couldn't get the image of the woman with green eyes out of his head. He had learned her name, Sophia, from the way her assistant had addressed her one day while she passed through the lobby. A few days later, he found her again, this time pacing the hall with a distressed look on her face, her phone pressed to her ear. Jason, busy with his cleaning, couldn't help but overhear snippets of her conversation. "They can't do this to me," she said, her voice trembling. "I won't lose everything." Jason's curiosity got the best of him, and he hesitantly approached her. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Sophia turned, surprised by his voice. For a moment, she looked at him, unsure of what to say. Then she sighed. "I'm just dealing with some problems at work. It's nothing you can fix." Her tone was sharp, but her eyes held a deep vulnerability. But something in Jason stirred. He couldn't leave her in distress. "I may not be able to fix it, but if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." Her gaze softened. "Thanks. That's kind of you," she said, her voice softer than before. Jason felt a sense of connection growing between them, something more than just casual pleasantries. Sophia and Jason's interactions became more frequent over the next week. Each time they spoke, there was a little more familiarity, a little more warmth. Jason would catch her eyes across the room and feel his heart beat faster. She'd smile, and he'd smile back, though he still couldn't quite believe someone like her was paying attention to him. One day, as Jason was mopping the floor near the office area, he overheard Sophia arguing with someone in her office. He couldn't make out the words, but the anger and frustration in her voice were clear. Jason instinctively made his way closer, just in case. When she stormed out of her office, she stopped in front of him, her face flushed with emotion. "I don't know how much longer I can take this," she muttered. "Want to talk about it?" Jason asked, stepping closer. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "I don't usually let people in, but I'm tired of pretending everything is fine." She slumped into a chair, her shoulders tense. Jason sat across from her, listening as she poured out her heart. She shared the stress of being a CEO, the constant battles with competitors, and the strain of carrying so much responsibility. Jason didn't have any answers, but he gave her a safe space to vent. "Thank you," she said later, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "You're different. You actually listen." Jason smiled, but inside his feelings for her were growing deeper. A week later, everything changed. Sophia was leaving the office late at night when a man appeared in front of her, blocking her path. Jason, still working in the building, noticed the commotion and rushed toward the entrance. "Hey!" Jason shouted, his voice full of authority. The man, who had been harassing Sophia, turned to face him, sneering. "You don't belong here, janitor," the man said, ready to throw a punch. Without thinking, Jason pushed the man away, sending him stumbling back. He grabbed Sophia's arm, pulling her to safety behind a column. "Stay here," he told her, stepping forward. Sophia's heart raced as she watched Jason face off with the man. She'd never seen him like this, strong, protective. The man, sensing he was outmatched, retreated. Jason turned back to Sophia, his chest heaving with adrenaline. "You're safe now." Sophia's eyes locked with his, a surge of gratitude and something deeper, something more, passing between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jason placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'll always protect you." The night's events lingered in both of their minds. The next day, Jason couldn't stop thinking about the fear in Sophia's eyes and how he had stepped in without a second thought. When they spoke again, her expression was different, softer, almost grateful. "I don't know what I would have done without you last night," she admitted, her voice quieter than usual. Jason scratched his head nervously. "It's no big deal. I just did what anyone would do." Sophia shook her head, her eyes searching his face. "No, Jason. You saved me. You didn't have to, but you did." She took a step closer, her breath steadying. "I don't know how to thank you." Jason swallowed, his heart racing. "You don't need to. Just know I'm here for you." Her gaze softened. "I know. And maybe I need you more than you realize." As days went by, the bond between Jason and Sophia deepened. Their friendship had become something more, something neither of them had expected. Late one evening, after a long day of work, Sophia met Jason outside. The air was cool, and the city lights reflected off the wet streets. "I don't know if I can keep pretending anymore," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jason frowned. "Pretending? Pretending what?" "That I don't feel this pull toward you," she confessed, stepping closer, her voice shaky but firm. "I've never felt this way before. You're just different." Jason's heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Sophia, I don't know what to say." Before he could finish, she kissed him, gently at first, as if testing the waters. Jason responded instantly, his arms wrapping around her as he kissed her back, his heart racing. For the first time, they were no longer the janitor and the CEO. They were simply two people falling for each other. The next day, Jason received an unexpected gift at work. A brand new suit with a note that read, "For Jason, Sophia." It took him by surprise. She hadn't mentioned anything about buying him anything. Later, when they met again, Jason couldn't hold it in. "Why did you give me this?" Sophia smiled softly. "Because you deserve it. You've always been kind to me, Jason. You deserve more than what you think you're worth." Jason shook his head. "I'm just a janitor. I don't need all this." Sophia took his hand, her voice serious. "You're so much more than that. I've seen something in you that no one else has." Jason looked at her, his heart racing. "But you're a CEO. Why me?" Sophia's eyes softened. "Because you're real. You're not pretending to be something you're not. And that's rare. As their relationship grew, so did the complications. Sophia's company was facing a major financial crisis, and the pressure mounted on her. Jason watched as she struggled to keep it all together. One night, she broke down in front of him, tears falling as she recounted the weight of her responsibilities. "I can't do this alone," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to fix it." Jason held her close. "You're not alone. I'm here. We'll figure this out together. Her breath hitched in her chest. But I'm supposed to have it all under control. I'm supposed to be strong. You don't have to be strong all the time, Jason whispered. It's okay to lean on someone. Sophia looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper. I'm lucky to have you. The love between Jason and Sophia had blossomed, but neither of them expected the next step. One evening, after a romantic dinner, Jason took her hand, his heart in his throat. I've been thinking about us, he began, and I want you to know that you're everything I've been looking for. Sophia's eyes softened. Jason, Before she could finish, he knelt before her, pulling out a small box. Will you marry me, Sophia? Will you be mine? Tears filled her eyes as she looked at him, overwhelmed by the love and sincerity in his eyes. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking. Yes, I will marry you. Jason and Sophia's relationship blossomed quickly, but it was not without its hurdles. Despite the connection they had, Sophia's high-profile position in the corporate world made things complicated. One afternoon, Jason was cleaning the executive offices when he overheard a heated conversation. Sophia's assistant, Alice, was speaking in low, hurried tones. Do you really think it's a good idea? Jason is a janitor. He's not in her league, Alice said, her voice full of judgment. Jason froze, his heart sinking as he heard the words. His mind raced. Was he really good enough for Sophia? Was she just being kind? Or did she see him as more? He continued his work, his hands trembling, but his thoughts were consumed by the conversation. Later that day, he found Sophia in her office, sitting at her desk, looking lost in thought. Hey, he said, trying to keep his voice casual. How's everything going? Sophia looked up, her face clouded with concern. It's fine. Just a lot on my plate. Jason hesitated, the words of Alice echoing in his mind. He wanted to say something, to confront her about the doubts that were creeping into his mind, but he didn't want to push her away. You can talk to me, you know, he said, stepping closer to her desk. About anything. Sophia gave him a soft smile, but there was something in her eyes that made him wonder. I know. It's just a lot of pressure, you know? Jason's heart raced. If it's about me, Sophia, I understand if this is too much for you. I'm not like the other guys you work with. Sophia stood up and walked toward him, taking his hands in hers. Don't you dare doubt what we have. This is real, Jason. What we have is real. Her words melted the uncertainty in his heart, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were facing an uphill battle. Things became even more complicated when Jason and Sophia's relationship started gaining attention. One afternoon, the two of them were leaving the building together when they were spotted by a group of reporters. The media was quick to pick up on the unusual pairing: Jason, the humble janitor, and Sophia, the powerful CEO. The headlines exploded the next day, with people questioning their relationship, some dismissing it as a fleeting romance, while others painted it as a publicity stunt. Jason couldn't believe the attention. He had never wanted to be in the spotlight, and now it was all anyone was talking about. At work, the whispers grew louder. Some of his co-workers looked at him with envy, while others judged him harshly for being with someone so powerful. Sophia, too, felt the weight of the media's scrutiny. The pressure of her position, coupled with the invasion of her personal life, was taking its toll. That evening, Jason found her at the edge of the rooftop garden, her eyes staring into the distance. Sophia? Jason's voice was gentle, but full of concern. She turned to him, forcing a smile. It's just the media. It'll pass. We're fine. But Jason could see the exhaustion in her eyes. He stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her into his embrace. We're in this together. Don't let them get to you. Sophia rested her head against his chest. I never thought I'd be in this situation. But with you, I think I can handle it. Jason kissed the top of her head, whispering, You don't have to handle it alone. Their bond, already strong, deepened that night, as they silently promised to face whatever came their way, together. As their relationship became more public, it wasn't just the media that began to cause friction. It was also the people in their lives. Jason started noticing subtle changes in how Sophia's colleagues treated him. They were polite, but there was an undercurrent of disdain, and sometimes he could feel their judgment in the way they looked at him. It became more apparent when one of her high-ranking business associates, Jonathan, began to show a keen interest in Sophia. He was charming, sophisticated, and had the kind of wealth and status that everyone expected her to be with. One evening, at a corporate gala, Jason felt his insecurities rise to the surface as Jonathan hovered around Sophia, laughing too loudly and touching her arm in a way that made Jason feel something dark stir in his chest. Sophia, sensing the tension, turned to Jason with a questioning look. Are you okay? She asked softly. Jason hesitated, but couldn't hide the jealousy that flared up. I just don't want to lose you, Sophia. Sophia's face softened, and she stepped closer to him. You won't. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. But Jason wasn't so sure. Jonathan was the type of man who could offer her everything Jason couldn't: status, wealth, influence. The thought of losing her to someone like him gnawed at him. Later that night, Jason took her aside and said, You deserve someone who fits in your world, Sophia. I'm just the janitor. I don't belong in your world. Sophia's expression hardened, and she looked him directly in the eye. You belong with me, Jason. Don't you dare think for a second that you're not enough. If I wanted someone else, I would have chosen them a long time ago. Jason felt the weight of her words, the certainty in her voice, and his heart swelled with both love and relief. Jason's insecurities and doubts about their relationship reached a boiling point when he found himself questioning his place in Sophia's life. One afternoon, when they were supposed to meet for lunch, he received a call that sent his world spinning. Sophia's been offered a merger deal from a major company, her assistant told him over the phone. It's a huge opportunity, but she's considering it very seriously. Jason's heart sank. He knew this was her dream, her chance to take her company to new heights. But he also knew that it could change everything between them. That night, Jason went to see her. He found her in her penthouse office, the city lights illuminating her face as she looked at the documents in front of her. You're thinking about the deal, aren't you? He asked softly. Sophia looked up, her expression conflicted. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Jason. But I don't want to lose what we have. Jason walked toward her, his voice firm. You won't lose me, Sophia. But I need to know something. If you take this deal, will it change us? Will you change? Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she stood up, walking toward him. I love you, Jason. No deal, no amount of money, will change how I feel about you. Jason kissed her, a passionate kiss that spoke volumes about what they meant to each other. They were ready to face the future together, whatever it held. After months of navigating their relationship and the challenges it brought, Jason and Sophia found themselves in a place of peace. They were stronger than ever, and Jason knew that he was ready for the next step. One evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Jason took a deep breath and pulled a small box from his pocket. Sophia, he began, his voice shaky but full of emotion. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me? Sophia looked at him in shock, her eyes wide. Jason, are you sure? He nodded, his heart racing. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You're my everything. Sophia's face softened, and she kissed him softly. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. The wedding was a beautiful blend of elegance and simplicity, a reflection of their journey. The media buzzed with excitement over the union between a powerful CEO and a humble janitor. But for Jason and Sophia, it was a dream come true. As they exchanged vows, surrounded by their friends and family, the world faded away. It was just the two of them, promising to face whatever challenges lay ahead, as partners in love and life. The future was uncertain, but together, they were unstoppable.